right now we're heading out to the Bryant Heating and Cooling Systems fan guest hotline, checking with our guy at Bucknuts. He is Steve Helwagen. Steve, thanks so much for the time. Always appreciate it. How's your jet lag feeling? You all right?
I didn't do much of anything today. I got home at 1:30 a.m. last night. I had a direct flight out of Las Vegas and got home and sacked out and got up this morning. I had something I had to do at 9 a.m. and then came back home and basically did nothing and went to bed about 1 o'clock and just starting to get into my day now here at 7:30. So here, let's do it. Let's get to it. Yeah,
absolutely. You got the Reds to watch too tonight, Steve, which I know that you'll be locked in on. We'll get you that coming up here at 8 o'clock when we're done with our show. So we had your comrade Pat Murphy on in the 6 o'clock hour. Just give me head to tails, kind of what it was like out there in Vegas, moving away from media days traditionally here in the Midwest in either Indy or Chicago. Just your overall thoughts on how it was run and your experience out there.
It was a little bit different. I got to the hotel on Monday, and usually when you go to these things in Chicago or Indianapolis at the media hotel, they've got these huge exhibits up saying, the Big Ten's here, whatever. There was none of that at Mandalay Bay, which was kind of weird. Nothing at the airport to say welcome to Las Vegas for the Big Ten, which was kind of different. But the hospitality from that point on was really good. And I want to tell you, other than, having to fly out, almost to the West Coast, it was really well done, I thought. I thought everything was handled pretty well there at Mandalay Bay, and there was a good contingent of media. Some of the outlets didn't go. I know 2 of the 3 local stations, TV stations, didn't even bother going. So, there is some expense when you have to take on these things and go across the country and road trip to Washington and all these other things that are come up throughout the season. You're going to have to pick and choose your battles. And I thought, on the whole, this was about what you would have thought from Ohio State. There was nothing controversial to discuss, and it was pretty straightforward.
Steve, out of all of the personalities across the Big Ten that were there that maybe you weren't familiar with before, did anyone impress you, whether it was a coach or a player?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd never really heard, David Braun, I think, from Purdue. I'd never really heard much from him. A couple of different guys. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's almost milquetoast at this point, but it is kind of bland. I mean, everybody gets up there and thanks Tony Petitti for his great job.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Your Highness.
It's kind of like, when you go into a court of law and you start to testify, you say, will you stipulate the blah, 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 and that's what it should be. We just skip right to the meat. Everybody wants to talk about everything but their football team. It's just the weirdest thing. But, it is that way. And, I thought on the whole, it was very good. I thought James Franklin was really feeling his oats there a little bit with some of his comments about why is it in Las Vegas and Notre Dame should join a conference, and he was a little bit opinionated.
The other conference, right? He used the TOC, which I saw Greg Sankey tweet out, like in an SEC logo format, taking shots at the SEC, doing all kinds of different
petty
stuff.
wars. I like it.
Yeah, I think for him, there's a lot of pressure on him this year. I mean, they made the playoff Final Four, but not even the Ohio State fans, or rather the Penn State fans, want to give him much credit. I mean, who did you beat, to get there? What was it, SMU and Boise State? Mm-hmm. They still haven't beaten a legitimate top 5 team in forever. So, that's what their goal is this year, is to win the Big Ten, and they haven't won that since they upset Ohio State back in 2016. So, and that's the last time they beat Ohio State. So, yeah, they got a lot on their plate they're trying to live up to. This will be their highest ranking, either number 1 or number 2 since 1999, when Joe Paterno was there, and they were number 1. They had LeVar Arrington and some other Courtney Brown, some really good players, and they did not end up number 1. They lost 3 games, including an unbelievable loss to Minnesota. So, yeah, it kind of unraveled for Joe that year.
He is Steve Helwagen of Bucknuts with us here on the Bryant Heating and Cooling Systems fan guest hotline. Funny you mentioned Penn State, Steve, because Dylan and I were just having the conversation about Jim Knowles, right? He goes over, he leaves Ohio State after 3 years here, including a national championship. He goes back to Pennsylvania. For them, with such high expectations, and we know it, we've seen it, it took a little bit of time for the Jim Knowles system to be implemented and work at the level that it did at the end of the season, and even really the last 2 seasons. For you, do you feel like there's more of a rush on Jim Knowles to implement his system, given the entire college football world buying in on James Franklin and Penn State this year?
Yeah, no doubt. He's got to go in there and have a great showing in year one to support the offense, with Drew Aller. And, I don't know. I specifically asked James Franklin about Tyler Warren. How do you replace all of his productivity? Because, for most of the year, he was the entire team. I mean, He kind of held that thing up on his own shoulders. And, obviously they got the two really good running backs, and Drew Aller's got the potential to be one of the best quarterbacks in college football, but we haven't seen him take that last step yet. So that's the key for them on the other side of the ball. But yeah, defensively, with Jim Knowles, the first year they gave up all those big plays, in the games particularly the games they lost, like the Michigan game in 2022. And then 2023 was much better, but they couldn't stop the Michigan run game when it came time for that. And then 2024, they've just simply played lights out. So, you look at it, and after the Oregon game, they were phenomenal. So kind of big shoes for him to fill there, and also for Matt Patricia, to follow Jim Knowles at Ohio State. There's a lot of pressure on all these guys.
Steve, I'll ask you the same question that I asked Pat Murphy about an hour ago. The quarterback battle at Ohio State is the storyline that everybody is focused on, everybody is worried about. Is there a secondary storyline that interests you going into Buckeye camp?
Yeah, I think defensively you always set the tone up front. Stop the run and get pressure on the passer. And we don't know what Ohio State has up front. We think Edric Houston is going to be pretty good and Caden McDonald are going to be pretty good at defensive tackle, but it's unlikely that they're going to play 60 snaps a game. That's just a lot to ask of those guys. So you need some good support behind the defensive tackles, and no one's really stepped up there yet. Maybe Will Smith, the local guy, Will Smith Jr. could be that guy. Defensive end, I had a chance to meet Bo Donaldson, the transfer from North Carolina, at the Special Skills Invitational camp that they had for special needs kids a week ago, and very impressed with Bo Donaldson. And he comes in, he's more accomplished than anybody on the roster. He's done more in his 2 years at North Carolina than anybody on the Ohio State roster. So, I really want to see Kenyatta Jackson, who they talked up out there, and Caden Curry, who's made some nice plays at times. Those guys all step up, and obviously we saw Logan George there in the spring game, the transfer from Idaho State. He did pretty well too. So you got some personnel there. Now they got to step up and live up to it. That's what we want to see.
Steve, before we get you out of here, how, just a scale of 1 to 10, are you excited that camp starts next Thursday, and you get to see some actual football being played?
Yeah, there's just enough of a buffer from this trip, ending yesterday for me to rest up for 4 or 5 days, because I think we're going to get to go see the first 3 days of practice when they sell tickets, I think, to the public to go out there to the Woody Hayes Center, and it's a tremendous thing to go and see fans showing up out there. I'm old enough to remember when Jim Tressel got there in 2001, he declared that the practices were open, and they were pretty much for most of 01 and 02. And then they won the national championship, but they were like, hordes of people showing up in the spring of 2003. They immediately had to pull the plug on that. So, yeah, it was something to have that opportunity for fans to go out there. I'm sure there's still tickets available through the website at Ohio State, Buckeyes.com. But, yeah, to get fans out there and see what this team's all about.
I feel like there was also no access when Urban was here. It was like it was shut down, and we had no clue what was going on inside of practice.
Yeah, you'd get a few days here and there, and the same with Ryan Day. We get a few days here and there, but nothing during the season, which is that's kind of the way of the world now in college football. They don't want anybody to even come in and watch them stretch, because they don't want people to see who's available and who's not. That's the big thing. So, yeah, keep it all hush hush. That's how it is.
Steve, always appreciate the time. Thanks for popping on with us. Have a relaxing weekend, buddy, and we'll check in again soon for camp to start next week. All right?
Yep. All right, guys. Take care.
There he goes. Our guy, Steve Helwagen of Bucknuts, with us here on the Bryant Heating and Cooling Systems Fan Guest Hotline.